Hi everyone. So we will be waiting for next 5 minutes so that everyone can join. Then we will begin our session. Yeah, so I think we shouldn't wait much more for that, and we'll begin this session so that we can end it at our respected times. So first of all, hello everyone. I hope you are doing well, and I would like to welcome you all to the today's webinar. In this, we will be focusing more on to the vertical design aspects of building, and we'll be looking at how buildings are designed and how the initiation has been done with respect to a particular product, which is Revit. And little bit about myself. So myself Anurag Pamnani, and I am the solution specialist for architecture at Capricorn Technologies. And I would like to also tell you something about our industry and our organization. So right now the industry is growing at a great pace with respect to all the domains like architectural engineering and construction. Secondly, with with media and entertainment, that is M&E, and design and manufacturing. So it's growing at a global pace, and we are there to match with these expectations. Uh, so of so we have been like in last 3 decades, Capricorn has played this significant role in countries' contribution towards the computer-aided design adoption. And we are also trying to concentrate on the information modeling, which is from the start of a phase to a end of a phase design initiation process. And we also look after the difficulties which has been rising on particularly on the building and infrastructure industries. So we are trying to resolve those as well on the same side of it. And we are more oftenly into an integrated solutions where we have number of different products, and we try to integrate those solutions together to develop a better understanding in terms of workflow to enhance the productivity and reduce our project risk at the same time. And we are delighted to inform you that we have been a global footprint to serve best to our abilities, and Capricorn Technologies is now a part of an Arkens group. Coming back to the today's agenda, which is more related to a product which is known as Revit, which is an Autodesk product, and it helps us to design and develop either phases wise and even a collaborated or a coordinated model, which serves us in all the disciplines like architectural engineering and MEP as well, which is related more to systems in terms of heating and cooling designs as well. So in today's agenda, we will be covering like what is a basic introduction to Revit Essentials and what does it basically covers. Secondly, we would be having an hands-on to how we can set a project and how we can initiate a design. And thirdly, we would be looking more onto the presentation aspects of it and quick generation of data sheets, which are quite helpful in using in all the phases of design, I would say. So even if we are working on an initial phase, so we can develop all these data within time in the data sheets, and as well as whenever the project is proceeding to its further phases and stages. So that particular schedules and estimations can also be developed within those phases in the model itself directly. And further on the fourth point, we would be looking what are the new additional features which has been added on 2024 version of Revit with respect to its 23 versions. So I would just begin this with the introduction to Revit Essentials. And here you can see we have a shift from a 2D phase to a 3D phase, which is basically a part of AutoCAD drawings, or you can say any software which works on the 2D aspect of drawing. So Revit helps us to even get the 2D drawing and also helps us to develop 3D at the same period of time. So even from its start point, we are knowing where the project is going to be and what are its limitations, and we can know the entire scope of a project we are working upon. So that is how Revit helps us to build those information modeling into our part where the 2D drawings, we are doing it everything manually on the same basis. So this helps us to even develop the 2D as well as helps us to create certain information or the data based onto our drawings. So that is all about why we should have a shift from a 2D aspect to a 3D aspect. So this would be more convenient for the ones, those who are using AutoCAD, and we try them to make a move towards a 3D environment where we can work on building information modeling, and we can develop a number of data which is required for the project and can make our work more efficient and easy. So here you can see how the transitioning happens. So the detailed level of drawings have been prepared onto the Revit part, and whether it is concerned with any of the domains, we do have different templates for it. So we can work accordingly, and we can even coordinate or collaborate with other consultants or members who are working on a different domain. So it gives us a easy modulation. It gives us a pre-inbuilt defined features, which makes our work more easier as compared to the drawings we are or the products we are using for the 2D aspect of it. Coming back to the part, how does it works basically? So on the central, on the complete image, you can see that on the central, we have an collaborated model or a federated model, which is a combination of like different team members who are working on different disciplines. That is a structural coordination. Then it has an MEP, which has an ducts and valuable mechanical features to it. We can eventually, while working on a project, we can develop our presentations, which is quite helpful for us to help our clients to visualize how the project and spaces are going to be, and what we think how spaces should be developed in accordance to our surroundings and climate and environment. So this is the part. Then more on to the part of scheduling and quantities. It helps us to estimate the data. As I said, it already helps us to get the information directly from the model, and that can be updated at any interval of time. And further, when all the disciplines matches together during the initial phase, we often have these analysis portion, which is quite restricted in this, but it's quite a good modeling tool, I would say. So it has the solar study portions. It can trace your location according to geo data, and you can work on the particular site and its aspect. Thirdly is a part where it comes with different collaboration and coordination parts. So it used to have, if number of models are collaborated together, so it's quite general that it would have certain deficiencies in them, or I would say clashes in them. So we do have an integrated solution for that. So a Revit model can be converted into a NWC file, which is a Naviswork file. And then we can have a clash detection where which pipes are clashing with walls, or particular system is clashing with a particular system, particular element. And we can resolve those issue based on the developed ID on a particular software, bringing them back onto the Revit software. And it makes our work more easier in terms of coordination. So this is how it works, and this is what it gives. So it is more about having the coordinated model. We can have a consistency throughout the model, how we are developing, how we are proceeding, and how we are leveraging our networks. And even the things are computable, which is quite a good feature in it. We can have its quantities, and we can have a particular element associated with a particular IDs. It gives us clarity, continuity, and agility at the same time. So this is why we should move on from a 2D aspect of a drawing to a 3D part of it. Coming to a part where it has also an feature with respect to design, visualization, and initiation, where on the basics of essential, we mostly talk about the model's configuration, what are its inbuilt feature. Based on its visuality graphics, we can know what is our cut plane and how we can arrange all those things into a particular sort of order to have a particular sort of representations. Then it do have features which help us to visualize and understand the entire project, and also help us to give a cloud rendering, which is a part of Revit. And we can have a quick rendering and representation to our clients. Even we can develop the walkthrough, which has an inbuilt tool, I would say, which help us to create the animation based on the camera focus and the path we usually locate onto our plans. And this I already told, like it helps us to develop a single federated model with all those disciplines together. So now I would just move on to a part where I would be moving on to a software interface directly. And I think my screen is visible to you. And here is I am at my project interface screen, which is in Revit portion. So here you can see the n number of projects which are made by me, which are recently I was working upon. And there are certain sample projects as well. On the left hand side, you can see I have the models where I can open new model or I can open the existing model as well as. And families is an important part as we are working on 2D aspects. So we always have blocks for certain things. Similarly, here in the Revit, it acts as in families. But what happens is in terms of blocks, we used to have n number of things. We have to associate a particular element with number of parameters to get a particular information. Here, we have already an inbuilt components. We just need to edit them and we can make them parametric. So I would just be opening an architectural project. So while moving on to new, I can select my template, whatsoever template I am working upon, and I could choose architectural for an instance, say okay. So here I would just begin with a new part. Yeah. So here I am onto my interface screen where I have open in project, and over onto the left, you can see whatsoever element I'm going to make, those things are going to appear, those properties and particularly related to the element would appear onto the left hand side. Whereas on the right hand side, you can see it's in project browser where we are making a certain composition based upon our understanding of a project. So the first part of it is to set up the units where I'm talking more on to the design initiation phase and would be developing certain data out of it. So the first thing is to set up the units. So I would be typing UN just, and I can work on particular units. So say I'm working on a standard metric units and I can set up to what decimal places I needs the unit. Similarly with length, I can set this and I can associate it with particular decimal points and say okay. So initially, whenever an architectural project is started, we do require a site. I won't be going at that part right now, but I would just show you how quickly we are able to manage a 2D and 3D at the same period of time. So here is an option under the architectural tab that is grid. I would just associate certain grids over here. And you can change particular instances. You can copy them. Suppose I'm copying them at 3 meters of distance. So initially we can pick and it gives us 3 meters, and so on. Even you can type those data directly and can locate the grids. Similarly, I need certain grids on my horizontal way. So I can give it a name like A now. Copy this. Three, I can enter 3 again. So I have developed certain grids. And now what I would be doing is I would be working on particularly the project levels. So I need to set the entire levels to it. If I'm going to associate a particular element to a particular plane, so I'm going to associate them to a particular level, say wall. So I have to give them a particular height to develop a volume of wall. So that can be done by moving on to an part of elevations. So here we have an elevation tab, and we can go on to any of the elevations. Just select it and drag it likewise. Yeah. So you can see I have a level 0 which is at 0 0 level, and I have a level 1 which is at 4 meters of height. Similarly, I would be planning for from here I can choose the level, and I can just make certain other levels to it, say 3 and 4. And whatsoever height is needed, I just need to pick them up like this, and I can change it from here like 3 meters. Then I can have 3.5, for example. Again, let me have it for 3.5. And I can rename it ground floor. Say yes. So as soon as we have developed certain levels, so you can see the project browser has already initiated the process, and it has developed level 1, 2, and 3, and so on at a similar time. Say first floor. Floor, the third floor. So under the project browser, you can see the names has not been associated particularly like ground floor or first floor. So what you can do in this aspect is you can just go on to the particular name and develop it with numeric numbers. So this is like 001, 01, and so on. So you can see as I'm doing it right here, so it arranges my entire project browser as I need. Secondly, I would be going on back to the floor plan where I need an initiation of my drawing. So I can pick WA for wall, which are the components in architectural drawing, doors, windows, and so on. So I can build walls, you can see easily. I'm doing it randomly. I can have this certain things. For having a proper dimensioning to it, we have to assign a particular dimension. Suppose if I have to make something, so what I would be doing is I would be having DI. This can be selected from an internal face, so it's a 12-meter gap. Whenever I select a gap, this will give me a particular direction where I can leverage. If I need 15 meters, I can make it accordingly. So that's how we work upon these drawings. And as soon as uh, I did this, you can see onto the 3D portion of it, we have a model developed for us. And it's going completely as we are designing the part of it. I will go back onto my ground floor plan, and still the height is not associated. So what I would be doing is I would select the entire walls, and you can see the base constraint is 0, which is ground floor, and it has a height of 8 meters. So I can make it like I need to associate this particular element to first floor where the height is 3 meters. So all these walls now are up to 3 meters. So now you can see the module has been developed for it. Similarly, what we can do is We can have door, and these are the inbuilt doors which we can already have, which do already have it, and we can choose it according to our use, single flush, double door. Even if certain new doors needs to be specified, so we can develop them on the basis of family, and we can load the family onto the project, and we can use them on the standard basis. So right now you can see this is also certain things like parametric. I can rotate it in the directions. As soon as I place the door, you can see there is a mark of having tag it down. If I tag it, it will reverse. So this is what I mean with parameters in the families. So even I can select this, I can go on to the edit type, and even I can change my door width and height from this dimension parameters. So whatsoever, so we can develop those by duplicating it. Suppose this is a size of 1800 by 2100. So if I need certain double door with 1800 by 2100, I just need to make it duplicate, and I need to mention it a name and my change just my width and height parameters over here, and a new family will be developed at the same time. I would be making some certain more doors with respect to this. And let's say I'm choosing this one this time. And I can place it. Even if you're placing it somehow wrongly, so even here the distance comes if it is being centralized. For example, if I move this object to a certain, you can see I can specify a particular distance that I need, 0.2 just of it. Yeah, so that can also be done. Now the part comes with more onto the presentation aspect of it. Even if I am having a wall, so you can see what are the wall properties. So this is the wall type, and under edit, you can see the properties of it. So I will just make a duplication of it, and I say I need a generic wall, for example, which is of a 200 size. And I can edit it. So these are the number of layers which was already present in the families. What I can do, I don't need any finish, so I can delete this part. I don't need any thermal insulation. I can delete this part. I can delete. So it's a general normal masonry or normal brick wall. I can say this is to be 0.2 of thickness. And I can say okay. Apply and okay. Now you can see the wall has been changed to a particular type, and I can match the entire walls. So now whatsoever you see by clicking on it, so you will be getting a generic wall which is of 200 mm. Similarly, for example, I'm tagging something or I need to develop certain information according to a room wise calculations. So what I can do is I can just go on to rooms and I can tag a particular room. So automatically, whenever I tag, so this is a particular type of family for tagging, and we can associate the parameters based on it. So you can see it's room number 1 with this square meter of an area and this square foot of an area. Likewise, for developing our schedules or particular area associated with a particular spaces. And just for an example over here, this is my entrance, and I can have a hall or a dining or a drawing area. So I can even divide this area based on the room separator. and I can just draw this line. So now entire room would be tagged accordingly. Want to architecture room back. So this is one space and it has separated two of our spaces on a basis of separator. I can change the name of rooms. This is bedroom. I give it more with respect to store. Mm, and guest room, I can say. This is my drawing area. And this becomes my hall. So I have tagged it and I can associate it. And if I need to present it to a client, so eventually what can I do is I will just go on to annotate tab. Here's a colorful legend. I can bring those down. It asks me according to rooms and by room name. So eventually you can see it has filled certain things with related to a particular type. So this is the bedroom area, guest, and so on. Gives me the area and helps me in presentation of a drawing as well. Even if I need things like wall, I can go on to the wall. I can just make an edit type, properties, and from here itself, I can assign materials to it. So this is a material palette where we can create our own materials based on the defined parameters. And here is a surface pattern. So the wall would be, whenever we are going to look at in the 3D, it would be showing certain hatch like this. And if I'm seeing it in a plan, so it has this sort of hatch. I can change this hatch to certain wall hatch, and I can have a background color to be filled of solid, and then I can choose certain color which solid it should be. So, and can say apply and OK. So even you can develop the presentation, or I would say to make it further better in understanding that this wall, which is of orange color, is of 200 mm. If eventually I develop certain wall which is of 4 inches or 100 mm, I can create a new generic wall and I will assign a different color to it. So it will distinguish whatsoever walls are there in the drawing, what are partitions wall. So you can work in a number of ways in it and can develop your presentation drawings in it. Now coming back to the part, like I have developed all this, and just for an example to create certain more understanding with respect to this, I would just copy this and paste this to the selected levels. I need this particular elements. I can select all at instances that are visible in view. I can copy them and I can paste to selected levels. Now I just need this on the first floor. So if I move on to my first floor, this is my plan. And eventually if you move on to 3D, now you can see two of the plans with same dimensions as game. And I can go on to floor 1. I can make certain edits to it. I can trim this out. I can trim this out, and whatsoever is here, I can propose it in a form of balconies, I would say. I can choose my railings and can start drawing on it. Finish it. Again, onto an architecture, railing. Develop it. Again, with respect to this, under this, developing the railing and make it finish. So now if eventually I move on to my 3D, you can see we haven't created the flow, that is the slab part, but it's just to understand how this works. And this is in a form of balconies. So we can develop those things likewise. And just for an example, if I'm moving on to the first floor, I need to tag certain other spaces as well over here. So I can go back onto the room so that I can make you better understand how it helps us in creating these schedules. And I can just have a room separator again into the first floor plan. I can tag this. Likewise, I can write here that it's in lobby sort of thing. And this again becomes sitting area, for example. And eventually you can bring those datas in forms of their presentation skills. So colorful legend based on the room type and room name. I can change the color from here. You can edit the scheme and you can define the particular color for a particular thing over here. You can drag it, just drop it. So likewise, changes will be made onto the drawings. So here I haven't changed it. I have changed it somewhere to first ground floor, I guess. Yeah, so see, here is the changed portion. So we can do that. And third, we have on the right, we have schedules where we would be quantifying it on the basis of an schedule sheet or an estimation to it. So what I just need to do is right click on it, develop a new schedule. And I know the category of my part is like room areas. So, or tagging up of rooms basically. So I can move on to my rooms. This develops my room schedule, which is number 2. And I can choose whether it is a part of existing phase or a new construction and can say, okay. So whatsoever details I need, I just need to enter those details. So I need an area of my room. Then what is the count for the room? What floor finish does it have? What level I am talking about? What is the name of a room? And you can also have perimeter, volume, or anything else as per your requirement to it. And I can say okay. So now you can see that under the schedule type, we have developed the room schedule 2, which is of which is this. Now, if I need to just arrange this particular thing in a particular order. So I had these fields on the part of properties. I can go on to my fields. So I will say the name, count should come at the first. I can bring it to the top, then the name, then the area for that room, and then at what level it is, and finally the floor finish area. So it automatically arranges the entire description likewise. And you can either fill those spaces, like if a certain property is not filled over there, I can say this bedroom is of epoxy tile is being placed over here at site, epoxy tile. And suppose in the drawing room, I need wooden finish somehow. I can tag that. And on the hall, I can say, let me have vinyl flooring. So as soon as I have developed certain entities, so you can see now I can eventually select it from a drop down box. So I can say the store is having wooden finish, then vinyl is the epoxy and so on, like vinyl. So this is how we work. If I need to get total for this, even that can be done. Like I can go on to sorting and grouping, and I can say grand totals for everything. So now you have a count, but you don't have an area quantification. I can go on to the formatting. I can again choose the area button, and I can say I need the total count for particular parameter. As soon as I do that, so I have a total overall carpet area of rooms in short. And even if someone is working at site, he can respond to a certain relation whether this task has been done or not. So that can also be done by adding on the fields. Like if I just move on to the fields, I need the comment portion over here. I can add the comment again at the end. As soon as I add, the table will be automatically updated. And similarly, I can say this is a work in progress type. So this is work in progress. This is in review right now. So work in progress, in review, work in progress, and say this is also work in progress. So I have developed certain comments based on the working of what is the work going on at site and what is its value at that part of time to look upon. This can be done even if I need to separate this according to the floor wise. So I can do again the sorting and level, and I can sort it by the levels. So I can develop the header. It should be at header footer, and I need a blank line after that. And I can say okay. So you can see whatsoever counts are there. So total 5 is there. This is the bedroom. This is the particular area, and it separates the individual count and has given a total grand total of 319. Further, if I need to filter according to the site that what are the key elements that we need to focus upon, say if the part that are in review are in key importance. So I can go on to filter and I can select particular like I need to filter on the basis of comments and which is equal to in review part. So I can get a particular sheet. So to focus, to get an idea of a data, these things at site are in priority and we need to sort them out on the basis of our project. So in this way, the schedule and complete entities help us to develop certain data in a format. So these were two part of it. Now I would be moving more on to a part of rendering and walkthrough, where you have this simple model, which we have developed right now. And what I'm doing is I'm setting down an particular camera, I would say, at a particular angle. And let us just have this version. You can see it has given me a particular view with a frame. You can make this orthographic or perspective as it is required. So just for an example, I'm satisfied, more than satisfied with this. So I can move on to the shaded portion of it. And under the view types, 3D views, you can see it has developed my new view, which was 3D view 1. And over here on the left, we have properties. We can go on to the render settings. And suppose I need a medium. I'm into interior, but I can say interior sun with artificial with few clouds and say okay. So my render settings has been set it with respect to this particular view. I can drag it down more to get a bigger view. And I would be moving on to my view tab. And here we have an option for cloud rendering to give us a visualization at initial phase of drawing. I can say just I need to render this into a cloud. So this doesn't renders the entire thing onto my system, but Autodesk has its own server which is cloud based. So it's a part of Revit itself. That says me, please save the project. Okay. Uh, Firstly, let me save my project. I will save it in desktop. Let me say a trial project. Uh, Save it onto the desktop. I'm canceling this out. And this is my trial project. Yeah. So I will go on to cloud and rendering. I will say continue. And here it asks me the view type. And if I need certain more additions to it, I can choose that, which is panorama, exterior panorama, and illuminance, and which is of a type advanced or final standard. So right now, according to my system, it's better to render it at standard quality itself. So it won't take much time. And exposure is advanced. I can say start rendering. As soon as it's started rendering, you can see onto my login license type, it initiated syncing to it. And once it's done, so either you can check the box, so it could be notified even through email, and or it could directly be notified once it's done. So you can work on the backend as well at the same period of time while it's rendering. So now it says render has been completed. I can go on to crowd rendering and into my render gallery. I think I would be having this. So you can see now the portion that we have rendered is something like this. So it gives us a sense of visualization of a space likewise. Even we can try n number of things over here, like we can proceed for the solar study. We can have a turntable. Turntable is basically a 360-degree rotation of a view, and it will develop. We can download the image, we can delete it, and we can modify. And suppose this entire image needs to be modified, so that can be re-rendered again at a same space. So that's not a big challenge over here, and it's quite good and easy to use. Now I would just take you to a part of ground floor and where we would look for a walkthrough. So basically again onto the view type, we would be moving on to walkthrough portion, and I can move it likewise. Suppose this, yeah, and I will finish the walkthrough. So now it says me to edit the walkthrough, and I have to set the frames. So it has in 300 frames. So I can just say, let it have 2 frames per second. Yeah. And I have set it at 2. I will say yes and select it, edit walkthrough, and just open the walkthrough. So this is the portion which it has opened it up, and I can drag the entire view over here and I can just say play. And even these walkthroughs can be exported onto the part of animations, and we can get an AVI format videos, which can be even played in VLC Media Player or Windows, anything. So it gives us a better sense of visualization. So this was the frame setted, and even what I can do is I can have this at a shaded part and then I can play. So this is how basically the software helps us to design, document the entire process and get the information, building information modeling from it. Yes. So now we would be just switching on to our last portion. That would be what are the certain new advances that has been developed on Revit 24 with respect to Revit 23. So we do have this shared parameter, which I told you, which is with respect to the families. And in terms of families, what happens is we have a shared parameter where there are two different types of families, a type family, which can't be editable, and there is an instance family, which can be editable at any period of time at a particular project. So likewise, if a door is there, it has an certain parameters associated with it. For example, width, length, height, depth, whatsoever, thickness. So that all the parameters when brought onto a file, those parameters would be visible, it would be editable, and you can make the enhanced changes according to you. So this is all about the parametric families, which is a newly added feature which also has is a fine detail level when it comes to an visual style. Earlier, the visual style was not there in the Revit software, and it was more on to the realistic part where the and it depends on the entire system configuration. But now they have introduced this visual style platform as well, a icon for that. Secondly, was on the basis of site development, I would say, which is more on the parts of contours. So the files from CAD can be imported onto the Revit and can be worked upon. And earlier it was more on the topo surface portion where we usually works with points and lines. But now if we even brought a survey data or an CAD file with particular contours. So it will automatically take those points, can define the intervals of contours and can develop the site accordingly. Even you can calculate the volumes and earthwork out of it. So this is a quite new feature available in 2024 version. Thirdly, I already told you like textures, which was not present in earlier version was visual texture, which is quite well developed, and I would say it can give you a feature without any hindrance to the based on the software configuration. So it opens up the images or materials whatsoever we have applied to an element and can give you the real sort of textures. In this version, they have also introduced the two of the versions as usually present in CAD, that is white and black background, where we can work accordingly as per our eyesight. Similarly, here they have introduced this version with dark theme. Based on the placements and tags already as shown you in the webinar demo. So here you do have the family floor families that can also be tagged with areas and space tags. And one more beautiful feature of this is it has a direct connection with Twinmotion. So Twinmotion here is a third-party application, I would say Epic Games product, which is particularly used for renders, images, visualizations, and animation sort of things. So earlier in 2023 version, we have to install certain plugin to get our model connected to Twinmotion, but now with Revit 24 version, it has a directly synced model. So even if I sync the model directly onto Twinmotion, so both of them will get synced together. If I make changes onto my Revit model, it will individually affect my Twinmotion model as well. Even if someone is not using the latest version of Revit, so he can convert those file or export those files onto an .fpx or .obj format and can work accordingly onto the Twinmotion. That's it from my side. And if anyone is having question, please feel free to ask. I'll just stop sharing my screen now. I request if anyone is having questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, then if anyone is not having any doubts, so we should proceed further and we'll leave the meeting. Thank you once again for everyone to join. Okay, we do have a questions in the chat box and it is with respect to Mr. Venkatesh Kumar. Uh, can we do the 3D modelings in software? Then why we need Revit for it? So, sir, to answer this question is SolidWorks or modeling, particularly with respect to Revit, is most focused upon the 3D portion of or the vertical design portions. And like I said, if you can model that in SolidWorks, So definitely, there would be different sort of things like parameters and all, if that can also be developed in Revit, which is not possible in SolidWorks. But basically, I think it's more related to a vertical or design aspects rather than on the part of just voids and working on the forms. Okay, then thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Hope you enjoy a great day.